This shit looks so fucking goofy. I just bought it from a Halloween store for like $3. But the symbolization is that I don't have parents because Batman doesn't have parents. It was funnier in my head. But anyways, I wanted to talk today about what it's actually like growing up without parents. And my parents aren't dead. There is a long story I'm going to get into, and I actually wrote down all of the talking points I want to go over because it is a long story. So if you have the time, bear with me because this is a very interesting circumstance that I was born into. So I was born on September 3rd, 2001. I think my parents quickly after started doing drugs, and they actually started doing them around the time my little brother was born, and he went into forget the word, where he was prematurely born, and he had to go into like fucking incubator thing like Mewtwo or some shit, and he luckily stayed alive, and it was a very crazy situation and fucked up that she did that. But my brother's okay. He's a little autistic, not actually, but it's a joke we make with him, but everything's good. Everything's good. And then we had another brother that was born, and I think she was off it during that, so he's fine. But I don't know why the fuck. I mean, I'm glad my youngest brother was born, but I don't know. Like, she's delusional for having another kid after doing the shit she's already done and not being able to take care of us. So it's like, to each their own, I guess, fuck it. Do whatever you want. But I'm glad I have them. But my parents were addicted to hardcore drugs. So one of the ones, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this on YouTube, but whatever, fuck it. I think you could say the word. They were addicted to meth, and I don't know if they were addicted to heroin, but I know they're addicted to meth and maybe coke, and we're just living really bummy lives. My grandma, she was a single grandparent, and she let my mom and her boyfriend, which was my dad, into her home and live there. And there's one story that I heard that she came home from work one day and they were just downstairs, like with puke and shit everywhere because they like were off fucking meth and just like were retarded. That just kind of shows you the shit my grandma was going through, and it ties in later. And also the kind of people my parents were. So they didn't even have respect for the home or whatever. And it was a nice home. This is the home I grew up in, and I will explain that here in a minute. It was a nice home, and they did not respect it. And so, we'd stay at that place a lot, but then I think my mom would get apartments or some shit. I don't fully know the whole story because I kind of blurred out. I had to call my aunt and ask for more information about it. But she told me, and I just called her a couple hours ago, she told me that the reason I grew up with my grandma was because and I didn't grow up with them, is because my mom had me and my little brother, and we were probably like 3 and 1 years old. And my mom was feeling like she was overdosing on a drug. I don't know. I think it might have been meth again, based on what my aunt said. But she called the cops or somebody. And if it wasn't the cops, then that person called the cops. But they found drugs, obviously, in the apartment. They found she was on drugs, obviously. And they also found, like, traces from the air in our baby bottle. I don't know how true that is or if that's even the thing they do, but that's what my aunt said that they might have done, and she heard that. So I feel like if she heard it, maybe there's some truth in it. But there was, like, certain chemicals in our bottle from the shit. So then they tried calling my grandma, and we would have just went straight with her and probably not even went into foster care, but my grandma was at work or something at the time, or just not able to answer the phone. I don't really know. She's a great person. This situation has nothing to do reflecting on her, but they called her and she didn't answer, and so they took me and my brother into foster care. And because we went into foster care, they had to, it was much harder to get me and my brother back. And so my grandma had to fight for weeks, she told me, to get us back out of foster care, and had to go to court and all this shit. And if she didn't get us, which luckily she did, we would have probably split off and never been together, me and my closest younger brother, like in age. He's my best friend. He's gone through everything with me, and I'm very fond of him. I I would never choose anyone in the world over my brother. I have another younger brother named Keegan, and unfortunately, he was born a couple years later, but he went with my other grandma, so something similar happened with him, and I don't even know that story, which isn't that fucking insane? I don't even know that story. But I know that he was with my other grandma, and so somehow he ended up with her, and so she clearly just is cuckoo. My mom, not my other grandma, but long story short in that regard, I grew up with my brother, so my closest younger brother, on my mom's grandma's side. And that was with my older brother and my grandma, and we all lived in a house together. And then Keegan, I don't know if I'm supposed to name drop, but Keegan, my youngest brother, grew up with the grandma on my dad's side. And so we're raised in different homes, and funny enough, we ended up having the same tastes and hobbies and personality, and now we're really close with that youngest brother. And even after all that, like, we spent like 15 years apart growing up. The bond's just getting closer with all of us now. Okay, so based on what happened from that point where it left off, where my mom got caught and we went to foster care and my grandma got us, this is where I start to actually see the impacts of growing up without my parents. And so a lot of people maybe on the video, they think, or they, based on the hook, they think my parents are dead. They're not. I'm not actually like Batman. I just thought it was funny. They're still alive. I'll get more into that later. But I grew up just with my grandma for the rest of my life, the rest of my childhood. And it was really good for what it was, for the situation it was, because my grandma didn't have a husband. That's another story. I don't know if I even care to get into that another day. But she raised the 3 boys alone, and that is a very heavy task for a elderly woman, and she somehow kicked ass doing it the best she could. And I always respect her for that, for always figuring it out. And I think I get some of that hustle mindset from her, from the way she had to always make things work. But there were a lot of issues that came from that are out of her control. And so basically, to explain, I wrote down a few bullet points of things I want to talk about, situations of what it's actually like growing up without parents. The first, I'll explain holidays. And holidays were good. And she actually somehow managed to get us like some pretty good ass Christmases and birthdays and shit. And it was with the help of my aunts and uncles and stuff. They were helping out. But there were years where we didn't have a Christmas. And I'm not like boo-hoo, but compared to everyone in Utah that has this perfect Mormon household, looks perfect, that wasn't considered extravagant, and it wasn't the best circumstances some of those years. But I always was strong for my grandma for that, because I don't want her to feel like shit, not being able to get her boys some presents for Christmas. It wasn't that deep. And at that point, she had already given us such a good childhood, and also we're blessed to even be together. And one point I didn't mention yet is that because I grew up with my uncle, he was close in age. He was like 5 years older. And yeah, so I'm very grateful to have that uncle that close in age. He was like the older brother. He was like Roderick in Diary of a Wimpy Kid for me. And he's the reason I have any swag at all, like any good fashion, whatever. Very blessed to have him. He taught me social awareness. He's probably the reason I'm, into YouTube and shit too, because maybe I would have found out about it at some point, but he was the one who put us on into making videos and shit. And we'd watch channels like Red Balloon Shop or Smosh, because of him. He put us on, and, gaming and stuff like that, all the pop, the normal culture, music, everything. He's the reason I, have the taste in what I do. I'm very lucky to have him as an older brother. And so if I grew up with my parents, I wouldn't have that opportunity to grow up with him. And I probably wouldn't be as cool as I am now, thankfully. It's not even like an ego shit. I just would probably be way more socially autistic and not doing the shit I'm doing now. And And then also me and my little brother. And so if I didn't have my little brother, or even if I did grow up with him in that life, it would be shit. We're lucky to be in that home because if somehow she managed to stay keeping custody of us, we probably would, be around shittier environments in a shitty apartment, around more ghetto fucking groups, possibly going down the wrong path. We grew up in a good neighborhood, all that kind of shit. Okay, now sports. So sports were an interesting thing because my grandma tried to get me into sports and she did, but I mostly had to teach myself. So my older brother liked basketball and he got me into it, but I had to teach myself to get really good at it because, I didn't have like a dad to coach me or whatever. And my grandma was always too busy to go to games or anything. So I kind of had to take it upon myself to be good at sports. And I'm pretty good at basketball to this day because I spent so many hours. And that time spending alone and realizing like I have to lock in to get good. I would watch YouTube videos of like training, teach myself, the shit because I didn't. And also like she couldn't afford to get us into crazy things. But luckily I worked so hard I'd get like scholarship programs into basketball academies and stuff. And so that's what sports like, but she couldn't come to games. So I didn't have like that NPC look in the stands, oh my mom, whatever, that kind of shit. That like those TV show moments, like I didn't have that. And it's not for her to blame, because she was working and stuff, So I don't judge her for any of those kind of situations. But aside from that, life lessons. So I'm actually going to tie this one into dating. I'm going to go over this next one lightly. The school events, that was good. My grandma was there. I don't know if I want to get into actually all that. There's some certain things I'll keep private. But dating, life lessons, and maturity. And this is where I took the biggest hit. And I had to teach myself the most. So the life lessons I had to learn, I didn't get from my grandma. She was trying to like play the role of father and mother for me and Talon, my little brother. And she did the best she could, but it wasn't natural. It wasn't the nuclear family. And so there's nothing wrong with that, but it did lead to circumstances where I had to teach myself how to become a man. And I'm actually grateful for these situations, but my grandma will be working a lot because she has to take care of 3 boys and is a grandma on her own. She got help from people at times, obviously. Like, I don't even know if it's possible to do that as a grandma. But she got help, but there were times she still had to be gone a lot, working. She had various jobs. I won't name them. But she was gone a lot. When I'd get home from school, she'd be tired, sleeping. And so there was a certain level of affection that I didn't get because of the exhaustion she had, and also a certain level of just effort and life lessons that she didn't really have time to be there to teach me during some of my hardest moments. But she was very supportive always. But an example of this would be like my first breakup. And actually, like, this isn't abusive to me. Like, some people might consider this. I'm not weak-minded. So I remember I was going through my breakup, and she was really sweet, but she also had to play the man role and was like, stop being a pussy and crying over it. And like, it's funny now. But like those situations where I was super attached, if I had a more, maybe affection from a woman growing up and more lessons from a man teaching me not to be so dependent on a woman, I wouldn't have felt the heartbreak and been so attached in those relationships early on as I was. And so I had to start to analyze the situations I was in at a much deeper level and think about, why is this happening to me? And why do I feel so attached to these people? And it's because I didn't get the reassurance and the validation that I seeked in a woman growing up, so a mother figure, because she was so busy, and she's not to blame for that. But it still impacts me in a way to this day, but not on the level it used to. I used to get very emotionally reactive to situations with women because I'd get really sad. and heartbroken and, codependent in relationships and all that shit. And so teaching myself how to be a man in terms of dating was a huge thing that I'm still dealing with. I still feel the emotion sometimes, but not nearly as grand because I've been through it. And then the other situations of life lessons and maturity were situations like motivation, self-control, discipline. My grandma taught me like some of these to a degree, but I had to teach myself in the regard of actual circumstances. So I didn't have anybody to tell me, like a man to tell me, when this happens, you should be this way. I had to see it and realize, oh, this is the moment I should be acting this way. And so I had to, teach myself self-respect. Don't surround myself with these certain people as much. And although my grandma would tell us these things, I had to enact it more because I had the freedom to go down a bad route because my grandma was so busy trying to take care of us. I could have been surrounding myself with bad crowds, but I chose to not go down the path of my parents. And I'm lucky to have like certain role models growing up. Because I found basketball early, I found Kobe Bryant, and I'd watch videos of Kobe every day and like his speeches, like motivational speeches, and realized that I should dedicate myself to self-improvement as opposed to, just being around degenerate people. And Kobe talked about that. And so I had these certain role models growing up where I was lucky to find them and lucky to found the activities I did, like gaming and sports. And so to go back onto the sports thing, I did want to mention something. I never felt the negative emotions of not having my grandma there. I was always excited to have her there when she could, but like it did kind of feel weird, like seeing my friends with their parents like at this certain parent day, but my grandma couldn't be there. Sometimes that did impact me, and I do remember getting kind of sad about that in elementary. Just something I wanted to mention. That was another experience that was unique. So up until this point, I also ended up, we ended up getting evicted. It wasn't for like not paying rent or something, but we ended up getting evicted from the house I grew up in most of my life, childhood. And I had to move out at 18. And so I had to take certain life responsibilities that a person with parents might not have. And I actually loved it. I fucking lived with my brother, and we lived at this like trap house, and it was just like such good years. And I stayed there for like up until 2022. That was some of the best years of my life, just living with my brother in that house. I remember the excitement of just like, we did it, like because we were working at the same place together, and it's just, yeah. So certain experiences I had earlier than some other people that had parents, and there's people I know that to this day that still live with their parents, and they are saving up money. I've had to create my own life path and career from scratch, and with video editing, and taught myself so many skills because of the circumstances I was given. I don't know how to word that better. So my brother was always kind of feeling the emotions of not having parents. He thought about it. He missed them for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe it's because he was too young to process it the way I did. I processed it sooner than he did. I'm not really fully sure why he would get sad, but he would get sad, and he would wish they'd come around more. But they wouldn't come around often. They would visit like once a year on our birthday, which is like pretty fucking insane if you think about it. Like, imagine your parent only visiting you on your birthday, and sometimes they don't even show up. And my grandma would like tell them to stay away because they would give us empty promises. So like they'd be like, we'll be here for this day and this day, we'll come see you more, like we love you so much, and then like would just disappear for like 9 months or fucking a year or more. And so it's like my grandma would be like, they'd show up and she'd just be like, get the fuck out, like stay away. And rightfully so. We don't want fucking that bullshit interaction. That's fucked up. They come buy us a gift like once a year, and it's just like, dude, take your shit and leave. Like, be a good parent or get the fuck out. And I respect my grandma for that. I don't really remember how we reacted growing up, but I just remember being like, "Oh, we want a president," but in reality, it's like now you can see it for how it is. Like, let's not let the druggies back in the fucking home. Go actually make a change for yourself and then come back. Um, and so I tried seeing my mom in the past few years, and she's just so fucking stupid that I just can't even like I don't even want her in my life. Like, and it's not like it is sad, you know, from the outside perspective, but it's like you have to think about it. There's friends I have that I know more than these people. There's friends that I've met this year that are closer to me than my parents because they weren't there. So why would I lament over their absence now? You know, like if I see them now and I try to understand their perspective and they are, but I did, and I invited my mom, and she came and she brought one of her crackhead boyfriends and was just like super low IQ, and I was just not feeling it. I was just like, yeah. And she was just weird the whole time. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, you could tell she's just not there. And so I don't want a relationship with her to this day, and I don't want a relationship with my father. I heard he's schizophrenic, has a new family. Good riddance. I'm not sad over it either. Like it's just I don't know them. They are just strangers to me that just brought me into this world. And you know, I made a video dedicated to my mom on my main channel, and like thinking about the potential of what she could have been as a person. She you know, was very pretty, and my dad probably would have been good looking, athletic. Maybe he could have done something. I don't think I ratio both of them in every metric of life now. I'm better looking than they were. I am better shape. I have a better career. Like I have surpassed them in every regard possible, and yeah. So I mean, I don't really get sad knowing that I am where I'm at. So I wrote down some more points. Yeah, I don't care that whole yap was just I don't care to see them, and they won't be a part of my life again. And if they do, I'll have to see some form of change. But they're just a waste of my time now. Why would I spend time with these people that have done all this? It's too much baggage. Uncle Danny, no. Oh, to go back on the point, so I did have my older brother for that, but I also, like, the closest thing I had to a father figure was my Uncle Danny. And so I had my Uncle Noah and my Uncle Danny. And Danny was, like, the one who, like, fixed things for me and was actually, like, there, like, how a dad should be. Like, if my car was busted, how do I do this? How do I move into a new place? Can you help me move into a new place? That was my Uncle Danny. And still is. And Noah's that now, too, but Danny was older, and so. Another way this has impacted me, I didn't mention this earlier, is the addiction to attention was kind of a thing. I didn't get enough attention growing up, so I kind of feel like Naruto in that regard. If anyone's seen Naruto, he acts out to get attention, and I used to be like controversial to get that attention, but now I'm like more mature and actually coherent and don't care about rage baiting for attention. I care about attention internally to some degree, but I also don't like if I get shit on or praise, like they're the same to me. Like I just care about spreading something positive. And so the career I've chosen definitely reflects off of the way I grew up, needing some form of validation maybe. But as I grow up, I am less attached to the initial feeling of it, and I'm just trying to do good with it because it's like a blessing in disguise sort of thing. But I think overall there was a lot of life lessons I learned about detachment and not giving certain situations as much power as they initially might have. I think that I taught myself how to be a man properly, and I'm glad for all the adversity I had to face because it actually taught me how to navigate through life on my own. And although I had, help and I wasn't completely alone, there were moments I was. And so that adversity has made me stronger and way more resilient through the things I will face in the future. And I feel like I'm very established for my age and at a mental level that a lot of people aren't because of the things I went through. And so although I pray for my parents and I wish them the best, and it is sad that the things happened the way they did. I wouldn't have wanted to grow up any other way, and it was actually a blessing in disguise that this all happened, and I'm very grateful that I grew up without parents.